Good evening and welcome. My name is Ginger Wyric, Director of the UNCC Charlotteans, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our webinar concert, Rise Up, Voices United in Song. Tonight we come to you from across the state of North Carolina to celebrate the singing accomplishments of three women's choirs: the Charlotteans of the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, the Meredith College Choirs of Raleigh, and the Women's Voices Chorus of Chapel Hill. Joining me this evening are two colleagues and friends, Dr. Shannon Gravelle, Director of Choral Activities and Music Education Coordinator at Meredith College, and the Raleigh Chapter Justice Choir Organizer, and Laura Sam, Director of the Women's Voices Chorus, Associate Director of Music at Front Street United Methodist Church in Burlington, and the 2020 recipient of the Laura Hoggart Award in Choral Music, awarded by the North Carolina ACDA. Throughout the webinar, the Q&A feature is enabled so that you may post a question or comment to the host. We will get to as many questions as possible. This is also a great way for you to share words of encouragement to the choirs as we celebrate each performance. So you may be asking yourself, why a webinar concert? This project was conceived during the summer as it became evident that ensembles faced great uncertainty regarding how we would rehearse, how we would perform, and most importantly, how we could keep our singers healthy. Much of the choral world gathered over the summer to share ideas, provide training, and to explore how we could navigate the fall season successfully. None of us had ever before experienced this scenario, and we were seeking direction. I reached out to two colleagues, Laura and Shannon, to see if they would be interested in doing something collaborative, the idea being that we could be resources for one another and provide a performance incentive for our singers. Both agreed, and thus began an amazing adventure into the unknown. Tonight we celebrate and share with you the accomplishments of our singers. The webinar format incorporates a little conversation, some background information about each song, and the video performances. Shannon, I understand that you are the Raleigh area organizer of the Justice Choir Project. Our concert tonight opens and closes with selections from the Justice Choir Songbook. Would you tell us about this project?
Yeah, so the Justice Choir Songbook is a collection of songs dedicated to issues of our current time. The flagship Justice Choir is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but since its founding, additional chapters under the guidance of the flagship chapter have arisen. The goal of the Justice Choir is a grassroots movement to engage in empathetic, collaborative, and collective power of singing together to create change. The Justice Choir Songbook is a labor of love from the founders of the Justice Choir and several other contributors, and the music is free for non-commercial use as long as it is attributed correctly.
Thanks, Shannon. Be the Change was the Charlotteans' first virtual choir project this semester, taken from the Justice Choir Songbook. We rehearsed separately, singing by ourselves with me leading through the computer screen. We used part recordings in breakout sessions, and we sang with our first click track. Students had to learn the music and learn how to video record themselves. Performing by yourself presents challenges that are different from singing within an ensemble. From my own experience, it takes courage to submit a video to your director, trusting that it will become part of something that is beautiful. Be the Change is composed by Mark Kaplan and Colin Britt. A program note tells us that Mark was asked to commission a piece for an all-county choir, and as he was thinking about being the best version of himself, Gandhi popped into his head, and the melody wrote itself within 5 minutes. Once I decided to add this song to our repertoire at UNCC, I took the structure of the song, wrote a piano accompaniment, and added some light percussion. So here is our setting of Be the Change, featuring Chanel Briggs, Gabrielle Bryant, and Anna Marks.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Women's Voices Chorus, I'd also like to welcome all of you to our virtual concert. We're grateful to be part of this collaborative music event and look forward to sharing our music as well as to enjoy the music of the ensembles of UNC Charlotte and Meredith College. In our virtual season, Women's Voices Chorus rehearses over Zoom for about 2 hours each Monday evening. We rehearse with our mics muted and sorely miss the sound of one another's voices. Even so, our evenings are filled with many of the same elements of a traditional rehearsal, catching up with one another socially during our happy half hour before rehearsal, working on vocal technique, learning the fundamental aspects of our repertoire, and focusing on the expressive elements of our music. We use breakout rooms for sectional rehearsals and small group discussions, and during our rehearsals, members share their areas of expertise with the chorus, such as the Russian pronunciation of the poetry in Rachmaninoff's The Angel, specific areas of vocal technique, or how to analyze and think more deeply about our repertoire. While intensely missing what we cannot have, we've made the most of what we can accomplish virtually, and this has opened up opportunities to us that we otherwise would not have experienced. Two very special aspects of our virtual rehearsals have been our guest members, some of who are joining us from great distances, and being able to invite guest artists and composers to enrich our rehearsals from as far away as California and Canada. While our virtual world has certainly its limitations, it has eliminated the barrier of physical distance. Our first song is a short canon, A Path to Each Other by Jocelyn Hagan and Timothy Tkach. For our virtual project, members submitted images for the middle section, images that reflect past activity of Women's Voices chorus, as well as images from more recent times, all representing the paths we've created to one another. We hope that you enjoy this piece with its timely message.
Each word a stone, we can build a wall, we can build a wall, we can build a wall or a path to each other, to each other.
Thank you, Laura. And also, I know that some of my singers recognized that piece because that's also a piece that we sang this semester. And I am very curious as to if any of them were singing along with it when they were hearing it. Speaking of which, so first of all, a welcome. Thank you so much on behalf of Meredith College and the Meredith College Music Department. Thank you for being here tonight and joining us. On a very personal note, singers, hi. I miss seeing you. I hope finals are not stressful, right? Almost done. Okay, and then fine, break. So what we've done this semester is we actually met in person, face to face, up until the end of October. So we recorded 2 live concerts. And we pre-recorded our Winterfest concert, which is actually going to go live on December 13th. And then we switched to a virtual instruction format after our end of October concert. And we worked on our virtual project for this concert. Now, to meet face-to-face required a couple of different moving pieces that we had to make sure were addressed. So for example, rehearsal space, we had to be in a much larger rehearsal space. So the singers could be more than 6 feet apart. There was a set of policies and procedures that I wrote up for the choir rehearsals. And then of course, Meredith has a set of policies and procedures too. So for example, for entering campus, having an application on your phone that you can show to say that you don't have any symptoms of COVID. And so and then all of our policies and procedures that we follow with the Meredith choirs were approved by our director of campus health. And we, of course, I have been following the most up-to-date scientific data from an aerosol study that multiple music and performing organizations are participating in. And what this study currently recommends based on the data that they do have is if you sing in person, to wear masks, be physically distanced, at least 6 feet, if not more, and then rehearse for 30 minutes in one spot, and then you have to move. So if you're inside, you have to, after 30 minutes of singing, you have to move from that space. If you're outside, you can sing from one space for 30 minutes, and then you have to move to a different outside space or take a 5-minute break. And so we, of course, followed that. Now, in general, our numbers, especially the first piece that you're going to hear today, with my Meredith chorus, our numbers were a little bit smaller this year. And so I wasn't sure how the semester would go, especially with having a modified rehearsal and performance schedule, a smaller number of people singing in the choir, and especially being physically distanced, you feel a lot more exposed, a lot more by your voice is by yourself. So I started with a unison piece that we could be done in a round. And quickly, the Meredith chorus singers were kind of like, nah, Dr. Gravelle, we love this, it's fine, but we're hungry for more stuff. And so we switched to some part singing, and that did some focus on listening as well. Now, we were rehearsing primarily in Jones Chapel on campus, and because we were physically distanced in the chapel, it's a very reverberant space. And so you're really also fighting the echo, singing with the echo. And then, of course, sharping as well, because as sound travels, sound waves shorten and sound sharps. And so we're fighting a couple different battles there, but man, we got to sing in person. And that was really delightful. I loved to hear the continuous improvement of Meredith chorus. I became a better teacher because of this group of singers. And I will say this about all my choirs and every year, and I really mean it, but man, this is a special group of singers. And I'm really excited about sharing this piece with you, the Song in the Air. It's written with traits of an early madrigal. You're going to hear a repetitive tra-la-la refrain to signify a recurrence of a joyful song. So my challenge to you is to count how many times you hear the tra-la-las. And so I'm going to go, of course, right into the next piece, which is by Meredith Encore, and I should say Meredith Chorus, the group you just heard, is our non-auditioned ensemble. And then Meredith Encore is a small ensemble and it's auditioned. And this piece that you're going to hear is When the Earth Stands Still. First of all, the text is amazing. And one of my singers in Encore said, Dr. Gravelle, I went and I listened to this piece and the text is just so powerful. It's like, yes, it is. So I hope, first of all, I just want to put that out there that, right, choral music is text driven, and I hope you love this text. But I've actually wanted to program this piece since I first arrived at Meredith in fall of 2016, and it just hasn't been the right fit for any group until this semester, which was also tricky because it is not an easy piece. There are some close and dissonant harmonies, and there's some extreme ranges. And I thought to myself, you're crazy for trying to get them to sing this semester because we have to be distanced and more than half of our rehearsing is outside. But I thought, no, but this is the group, also a very special group of singers. Okay, I told you I'll say that about all my choirs, but I actually mean it. Just a wonderful group of singers. And it was a big challenge because of the difficulty of the piece and the modified rehearsal format. But I am incredibly thrilled with every moment of Encore's commitment to the music and the text. So, When the Earth Stands Still.
Beautiful. Congratulations to all of our singers this evening. It's so lovely to hear you. Many of us have attended webinars regarding singing safety and followed the research studies from the University of Colorado at Boulder on aerosols and the spread of COVID-19. Laura, you've been instrumental in helping choral directors learn how to work with new technologies and to create virtual choir recordings. We appreciate the week-long boot camp you gave us this summer to help us through ACDA on audio and video editing, teaching us how to navigate this new process and the software. You're also creating beautiful virtual choir productions for other ensembles. What does it look like to perform in a virtual ensemble?
Sure. Well, it's certainly different and it definitely has its challenges. And I would just like to say that virtual choir performances are the result of the contributions of many participants, singers, conductors, project managers, if you're lucky enough to have one, and of course the audio video editors. To simplify a very complex process, I made a list of what most virtual choir projects include. Selecting repertoire, securing synchronization licenses from copyright holders for pieces not in the public domain, creating digital scores, using the digital scores or audio recordings to create guide tracks for singers to use in rehearsal and as a guide to their individual recordings, distributing the digital scores and guide tracks to participants, rehearsing virtually with singers and accompanists, recordings made by all the individual participants, collecting and organizing all of the recordings, creating one audio mix from all of the individual recordings, designing a storyboard for the visual aspects of the project and sourcing any supplementary videos and images that will complement the project, creating a video using the audio mix, the participants' voices, and other images and videos that enhance the storytelling, and then sharing via the internet to audiences both local and global. This list I just spoke aloud in about a minute, requires months of dedicated work by many to accomplish. Our next piece, Sweet Child, is the fourth movement of Sarah Cortell's Snow Angel. We were thrilled that Ms. Cortell joined us at one of our September rehearsals from her home in Canada, as she shared with us her creative process and her inspiration for this piece. You will see images of snow at the beginning of Sweet Child and again at the end, which connect thematically with the snow images in the other four movements. We will perform all 5 movements, including narration, as part of a Women's Voices Chorus virtual event in late January of the new year.
Sweet child, hear my song. Sweet child, I will guide you. Sweet child, sweet child.
Thanks, Laura. Online rehearsals have also afforded us the opportunity to connect with others that we may not have experienced during a typical semester. The Charlotteans were privileged to have Australian composer Dr. Lisa Young visit a rehearsal with us from her home near Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Young is well known in choral, jazz, and world music as a vocalist, composer, and improviser who incorporates Indian and African elements in her work. She has her own ensemble, the Lisa Young Quartet, and is a founding member of the vocal group Coco's Lunch. We had a wonderful conversation about Tulele Mama Ya, where students asked questions about her compositional choices and interpretation. Lisa also introduced us to Konakol, the vocalized rhythmic syllables of South Indian classical music and dance. Our selection, Tulele Mama Ya, is inspired by the Zulu phrase Dula Mama, which translates as don't worry or don't cry, Mama. You will hear layered melodies, chant, cross rhythms, and a beautiful solo by Amanda Barca. Our setting of Tulele Mama Ya.
Oh, that was so wonderful. And what I love, Ginger, is that they were moving. because all music must dance, right? And so they were, that's after my own
That's
heart. That was,
we took a different approach to that one with rather than just fitting ourselves in a box, but to celebrate that music.
yes, I love it. Wonderful, thank you. The next piece that we're really excited about sharing tonight is actually a piece that we premiered in October. Meredith Chorale premiered. The composer Remmel Derrick is actually no pressure chorale. He is watching tonight. So, but don't worry, don't worry. So I want to give you a little bit of background of this piece. This past summer, I was looking at music. And I knew that the music for this semester, this year, and moving forward, it had to be different for reasons of public health, for reasons of equity. So I was looking for something also, you know, gosh, we're going to be singing outside. What could we be doing? So I was looking at a list that was put together by another choral director, Dr. Marcus Garrett. And as I was looking through this list of music he had put together and I was listening to pieces, I came across Remmel Derrick's I Have Come to Bury Love, which is based on Sarah Teasdale text. And I listened, and I didn't hear voices because when I listened to it originally, I think it was just a MIDI file actually at that point. But I just heard it and I heard my singers' voices and I thought, this is it. And it was the only piece I looked at this summer and immediately put in my, I'm going to program this year pile. I never do that. I have piles upon piles and list upon lists because that's what I do. And then I go over pieces and I think real hard about them. But I heard this piece and I said, well, we're doing it. I just knew. And so after I reached out to the composer and I realized that we also had some shared people in our lives, some people that I hold very dear who are used to teach at a university in Texas, and he also knew them because he studied with them, and they're such beautiful people. And I think knowing that we had that connection as well, I thought this is even more meaningful than it already was. And also, as my singers were learning the piece, many of them made comments where they said, this is maybe my favorite piece that we're singing. And I think it's because the setting is beautiful, the text is beautiful. We had great text analysis discussions on this, sometimes kind of hard ones, as you do. So I'm really excited about sharing this piece with you. I have come to bury love.
Wow, that was a wonderful piece. Congratulations, Shannon, and all the singers. I've so loved hearing the music of all of the singers. Ginger and Shannon, congratulations. It's really thrilled to hear your students and your work tonight. So a few things more about virtual choirs. One is just the challenge of working with so many files can be overwhelming to our hardware and both our software, to both our hardware and software. Um, I was remembering a few weeks ago, I was working on a project with 205 participants, and my editing screen went completely black, which is not a good sign for an editor to see. And when I contacted Apple support, he said, "Yeah, I don't know what you virtual choir making people are thinking, because the software was not designed to do that. Nobody edits 205 videos simultaneously. It's not going to work. You can't do it." And so my thought was, all right, you've told me what I can't do, and so now watch me do it. And it was just a matter of understanding the limitations of the software, which I had not to that point understood. But understanding the limitations and then finding workarounds. And so I think we've all been adapting to our virtual world in the best ways that we can. And ironically, tonight, Shannon, thank you, Shannon, is playing the videos from the Women's Voices Chorus, because I'm not going to trust my internet tonight for such an important evening. So regardless of how much we know, we also have to just depend sometimes on the whims of our internet speed and our connections. But on to one of my favorite aspects of, well, I have actually two favorite aspects of virtual choirs. One is that I hear individual singers' voices in a way that I don't hear in a traditional choral rehearsal. And that's really lovely as I'm editing, to listen to people who I love and to hear their voices in my ears for weeks on end as I'm editing their files. But I feel that it's a great opportunity for me to hear them as individuals and then understand how their voices make our collective sound. That's been a great privilege. But the other aspect of virtual choirs that I just love is the imagery that can be connected to the virtual choir project in order to enhance the expressiveness of the music. So I'm not often in a space, in a performance space, where I could have great big projection screens and have all these images going with all of the lighting that it would take to accomplish that. And but in virtual choir world, I can do that. And so so I found that to be a very just lovely part of virtual choir making. So I just want to talk about the imagery for a moment, because our next project uses a lot of imagery. I think that imagery can greatly enhance the musical experience of a virtual choir project, as evidenced in our next piece, Angels of Mercy. I chose this piece as a cornerstone to our angel-themed repertoire for this season, with the thought that during these dark days of the pandemic, we might be uplifted as we gratefully honor those who serve others, and in this case, volunteers of the American Red Cross. Many of our members have been active volunteers with various aspects of the Red Cross, especially Jackie Walters, who has served in leadership capacities in the American Red Cross for 50 years. This project exemplifies another positive aspect of virtual music making, in that our projects can be shared via the internet and have the potential to reach a much wider audience than would a traditional concert setting. This Angels of Mercy virtual choir project has been shared with the Red Cross community worldwide and has been described by viewers as inspirational and uplifting in this season of Thanksgiving and during this time in our nation's history. So here's Irving Berlin's Angels of Mercy.
fantastic. I love the use of images. It's such an interesting thing, this virtual choir world. And so when COVID first hit and everything closed down in March, I think a lot of us kind of pivoted and we're kind of like, what are we going to do? So I have to tell you from experience, that's when I started learning how to do audiovisual editing, because I was like, I know, we'll just make a virtual choir. And I thought it would be easy. It was a lot of late nights and I don't do well with late, but that's okay. But I need to tell you that the amount of work and knowledge that Laura has put into this is amazing. Laura quickly over the summer taught herself all these things that only the experts know, and then presented workshops on it for the rest of us choral conductors who are like, ah. So it was really top-notch work, Laura. And the imagery is so beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's been fun.
Yes. And also, Ginger, I have to say, you're coming along. Your like skill set too with your words moving and stuff. I can't even do that yet. It was funny because when we did last March, each of my ensembles did a virtual choir project, and I just kind of threw their pictures up on a screen and then they sang for 3 minutes. And one of my students, God bless her, was like, yeah, I'm really glad we got to do that. It was like 3.5 minutes of us just looking at our faces. She didn't call it boring, but I knew what she was saying. So the imagery is really, really engaging. So thank you. So as we were going through this summer and we were trying to figure out what to do, and Meredith faculty had the chance to decide if we wanted to be face-to-face or virtual or hybrid or what are we going to do, right? It's who knows? So you want to make the best decision possible for the education of your students, but you also want to make sure they're healthy. You never want to sacrifice a student's health or your own health, because we do this collaborative in-person thing. So I had no idea what the semester was going to look like, right? So the very first piece I decided to teach each choir for the semester was a piece called We Shall Be Known, as sung by Mamuse. It's actually written by one of the group members, Carisha Longaker. And I thought, I had no idea if we were going to like move to remote instruction after 2 weeks. So I thought, this is a piece I can teach and at least we can all learn the melody. And if worse comes to worse, we'll just make a virtual choir of the melody and it's fine. And then I will assign projects to my section leaders. The section leaders are going, what? Yeah, but I thought, oh, make them do some editing. That was a bad idea. I would not have made you do that, section leaders, don't worry. So I thought, okay, we'll teach this. The other thing about this piece is, well, when I first heard it, by the way, I thought, oh gosh, this is great. It's a piece that you teach in the oral tradition. So no music, which I think is so good for my students. They hate because they want to see the music. They say, just show us the music. Can you write down the text and show? And I'm like, nope. So I'm like telling them the text and I see them frantically trying to write it down because they just want to be able to read the words. But they did a great job. And so this is meant to be learned and then sung, right? Taught by rote. And so when I first heard it, it was this folk duo, Mamuse. And I thought, oh, this would make a great choral arrangement. And then after searching around a little bit, I found, oh, some people have sung it in choirs. I just hadn't seen it before. So I highly recommend you learning it. We're singing at all of our concerts this year. And if you learn it, you can sit from your seats and you can sing it with us. Okay. So I'm really excited. This is entitled We Shall Be Known. And I hope that every time we sing it, it changes just a little bit and has something new to it. Here we go.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend please us. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within
Shannon, I can see why y'all have enjoyed that so much. What a beautiful setting, and I really love the way you have interpreted it, you and your singers, and it makes me want to go and look that up and add that to our list. Thank you for sharing that. The Charlotteans have come to love the compositions of Elaine Hagenberg. It was an easy choice to add one of her songs to our fall repertoire. Elaine began her career as a music educator and continues to share her passion of music with others as a full-time composer. With over 50 commissioned works, Elaine runs her own publishing label and has works with several other publishers. Most recently, Elaine won the Raymond Brock competition for professional composers sponsored by ACDA, and her composition, I Am the Wind, will be performed at the 2021 ACDA National Conference. The text of You Do Not Walk Alone is a traditional Irish blessing, and it seemed so timely this semester, especially with online choir rehearsals and having to sing by ourselves. We can feel isolated when our hearts yearn to create music with others, and these words assured us that we are in this together, even when we feel alone. It's been a source of encouragement and strength throughout the semester as we've worked on this text. Our virtual choir recording features photographs submitted by our singers. Part of our score study included exploring the text. Students were invited to consider how the text could be expressed through images as well as sound, and you will see some of their interpretation in our setting this evening. You do not walk alone.
May you see God's light on the path ahead when the road you walk is dark. May you see God's light on the path ahead when the road.
Tonight's concert concludes with a collaboration of all three ensembles who participated in recording Rise and Stand. Let's share how this came together. First of all, we determined that Rise and Stand would be the combined repertoire choice. Responsibilities were then shared between the conductors, with each of us taking a component of the project. I created a performance score with breath marks agreed upon by all the conductors. I also created a click track with backing percussion and piano parts to assist our singers. Each conductor sang several or all of the vocal parts and sent these to Laura for audio editing. Each choir rehearsed individually and collected singer videos. Each conductor did the audio mix for her own choir and bounced out the results to Shannon for the final combined mix. Each conductor collected and posted singer videos to a shared Google Drive. The conductors met to discuss the imagery and final video design as a team, and Laura took this information and created the video, including combining 110 videos, audio, and images to create the final project. Laura, tell us about Rise and Stand.
Thanks, Ginger. Well, designing and editing the video for Rise and Stand was both a challenge and a joy. It definitely challenging because of the sheer numbers of files involved, but a joy to watch and listen to 110 choral musicians sing these impactful words. And I'm deeply grateful for the singers of Women's Voices Chorus who've taken this virtual journey with me, for all of the singers in your ensembles who I had the pleasure to hear working on this project, and for you, my wonderful colleagues, for our friendship and sharing this amazing evening with me and with everyone in our audience. So we'll now close our concert as we began with an offering from the Justice Choir Songbook, Rise and Stand by Ariana Abella.
I will rise with all my daughters. I will rise against my foes. I will rise with all the lovers. I will carry all their woes. I will rise to fight for freedom. I will rise so faced with
Thank you, Laura. What a treat to see that premiere all come together. Congratulations to all the choirs and all the singers. And Laura, thank you so much for all that work. And Shannon, what a joy to have a team effort and to see it come together at the end of the semester. Thank you all. Allow me to express my gratitude formally as we close out our evening together to Laura Sam and the Women's Voices Chorus of Chapel Hill, to Shannon Gravelle and the Meredith College Choirs for joining me and the UNC Charlotteans in this great adventure. This has been a lovely evening celebrating a miraculous fall singing season. And to our audience, thank you for choosing to be with us tonight. We appreciate your support. I encourage you to take a moment to congratulate the singers that you know in tonight's performances for all that they have accomplished in difficult days. You're encouraged to visit the websites, Facebook sites, and department sites of all three ensembles to learn more about our upcoming performances. We hope to see you all in our audiences once we are able to resume gatherings. In the meantime, keep singing and good night.